A sacked environmental advisor unleashed a blistering attack on Boris Johnson's green credentials hours before the PM launched a major climate change summit. Claire O'Neill, who was fired last week, claimed Mr. Johnson had admitted that he does not really understand the issue and accused him of breaking promises. The row overshadowed a climate crisis event at London's Science Museum, attended by Sir David Attenborough, with Mr. Johnson refusing to answer questions on the dispute with Mrs. O'Neill. She was booted out as president of the COP26 UN summit, which will be held in Glasgow in November, by the PM's special advisor, Dominic Cummings. The former Tory energy minister, who quit Parliament at the election, said there had been a huge lack of leadership on climate change. She told BBC Radio 4's Today programme, "The Prime Minister has made incredibly warm statements about this over the years. He also admitted to me that he doesn't really understand it. He doesn't really get it, I think is what he said." She added, "My advice to anybody to whom Boris is making promises, whether it is voters, world leaders, ministers, employees or indeed family members, is to get it in writing, get a lawyer to look at it and make sure the money is in the bank." Mrs. O'Neill spoke out as the government unveiled plans for the ban on sales of new petrol and diesel vehicles, including hybrids, to be brought forward by 5 years to 2035. The Prime Minister told the launch that he wants to see every country following the UK's lead in setting credible targets to reach. He added, "We've put so much CO2 in the atmosphere collectively that the entire planet is swaddled in a tea cozy of the stuff. It's predicted, unless we take urgent action, to get 3°C hotter, and in the hurricanes and the bushfires and melting of the ice caps and the acidification of the oceans, the evidence is now overwhelming. We know as a country, as a planet, as a species, we must act." The PM said the UK was leading the way by setting a legal goal to reach net zero by 2050, saying, "It's quite proper that we should, we were the first after all, to industrialise. Look at historic emissions of the UK, we have a responsibility to our planet to lead in this way." Sir David said the talks in Glasgow, which are being co-hosted with Italy, were vital. He said, "It's now up to us to put before nations what has to be done." Mrs. O'Neill also claimed that Mr. Johnson has refused to give Scottish leader Nicola Sturgeon an official role at the summit. She said she suggested ending the standoff between the UK and Scottish governments over the global conference, but Mr. Johnson had saltily rejected the proposal. A spokesman for Ms. Sturgeon said yesterday that Mr. Johnson had set the tone on the climate change row. They added, "That is the basis on which some of this has gone forward, and that is deeply